Hello, this is I Do Damage and welcome back to the channel. In this Wolcen video, I want to talk about Content Patch 2, Wrath of Sarisel. This came out a few weeks ago and I thought it's high time that I go ahead and start making some videos on Wolcen. So here we go. Wrath of Sarisel, I have about 2 or 3 hours played in the whole patch altogether. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but I am trying to prevent burnout before the game even releases here in a few months in January 2020. So within the 2 or 3 hours, I have enough time played, I think, to really assess this patch and talk to you guys about it. So let's start. The biggest highlights in the patch, and these will be timestamped down below for you if you'd like to use that. We're going to talk about the improved expeditions, Wrath of Sarisel mode, trading, new items, and we'll also talk about the new skills that were added. So first and foremost, the biggest feature of this patch, it's even in the title, Wrath of Sarisel mode. But I want to explain how this whole mode works from the beginning. So let's talk about the improved expeditions. They did indeed improve these. They upped the rewards, which was significantly needed. It's an end game mode and you really should be rewarded for doing it. So they've delivered on that front. They've also made it so that you're required to kill more mobs during the expedition before the boss spawns. This is a really nice addition for me, as I don't feel the need to just rush to that boss. I actually can clear mobs and kind of roll my way through the expedition. They also improved the expeditions by adding area modifiers. Now this is nothing new to the genre. We see it in almost every isometric ARPG. And pretty much what it does is it adds on a modification to the map. Maybe the enemies deal more damage or have a higher crit chance or more health. Whatever it is, there's a variety of them. It's welcome. It's obviously a cookie cutter thing in the genre, so why not add it, right? But where it gets a little lazy in my eyes is the way that you add these modifiers. You just pay 2,000 gold per modification to the map. I'm not a big fan of that. I really wish that there was more thought behind unlocking these modifiers and unlocking the ultimate Wrath of Sarisel mode, instead of just paying gold and then affinity to unlock it. It just doesn't feel right. But the way it works is you open up the Expedition UI, you pay 2,000 gold per modifier, up to 4 modifiers per map. And so that's 8k gold, and then you have to pay 2,000 affinity to unlock the Wrath of Sarisel mode. Affinity is what you get for selling those unwanted NRACs or skill runes. So if you get a duplicate skill that you already know, you can sell it off for 2,000 affinity. Before you start adding modifiers, you can select which level the map is, all the way up to where the enemies are like 10 levels higher than you. You can select that and then add on the modifiers to that map. So overall, the area mods are pretty basic and simple. They're nothing new to the genre whatsoever. And the way that you unlock them feels really simple. I just wish you had to use items, maybe so that you had more of a reason to actually go and explore the world of Wolcen. The world of Wolcen is a whole nother video, but it's something I'd like to see expanded upon. But overall, that's how the expeditions have been improved. Now, the Sarisel mode, this is really the heart of the update, is the Wrath of Sarisel mode. So once you've paid your 8,000 gold, got your 4 modifiers, you can pay another 2,000 primordial affinity and unlock the halflings to spawn in the expedition, which unlocks ultimately the Wrath of Sarisel mode. Now this mode should feel special, and it's meant to, but I'll be honest, overall it just feels like another expedition type. It's meant to be this timed challenge expedition map that you have to try to rush through, and you have to try to be efficient at killing and speed. There's no loot during it, so you can focus on just being a killing machine and get the highest score at the end. Seeing a score at the end and getting all the loot and rewards at the end is definitely nice. But overall, there's something off about it, and I think I've pinpointed what it is. The Wrath of Sarisel mode is meant to be a multiplayer mode. This is something I really want to talk about with Wolcen and the direction they're going. I don't know. I don't think that this is the right direction, guys. I really don't. I think them forcing multiplayer in Wolcen is not a smart idea. Now, overall, the Wrath of Sarisel mode is definitely a cool idea. Don't get me wrong. I like the idea of having a tank that can taunt and hold threat and take all the hits while you have your damage dealers, maybe a healer in the pack. Definitely a cool idea, and it's something I really would like to see somewhere at some point in the ARPG genre. I just don't know if Wolcen's the right game for this. If they want to continue taking the game in this direction and have a multiplayer-centric mode, they need to be very careful in doing so. They already don't have a super huge player base. And if you don't have a big enough player base to support a multiplayer mode, it's going to be really hard to succeed, I think, in the future. Now, don't get me wrong, you can solo the Wrath of Sarisel mode, and I have, and the majority of my time I was playing solo in the Wrath of Sarisel, and it was just overall a really poor experience. Some of the mini-bosses that you encounter, and if you're playing solo, just feel really bad. They have mechanics that, for instance, one grabs you and damages you, and you're in this animation for like a good 7 or 8 seconds, which is meant for another player in your party to be smacking that mob to interrupt the animation and get you out of it. But in solo, you don't have that option, and it just doesn't feel good. But I have some ideas of what they could really do for this mode, just in case there's not a massive player base to support the multiplayer, and if you want to do solo and maybe make solo feel better overall. I think what they need to do, first of all, if they want to do the multiplayer route, is they need to really work on the networking and the loading screens. You need to be able to find games quickly and frequently. That's the number one thing here. People are not going to want to wait 20 minutes to get set up into a game to do this mode. People just aren't that patient. But if they wanted to make it more fun for solo players, a few things they could do is simply have the mode scale down. Like, have that boss I talked about, have its animation like a second long, or have those mini bosses have less health even. Just simple scaling down so that playing solo actually feels fun. Another idea, and it would be pretty much what Diablo 3 did with its companions, but Wolcen could do its own take. Maybe you pay gold to a bounty hunter of sorts and it follows you around, and just a simple companion system to have someone else in there with you so you don't have to wait to try to find other players. Overall, Wolcen Studios really needs to plan ahead if this is the direction they want to pursue. It's definitely an interesting idea, and like I said, I do want to see it succeed at some point in an ARPG game. I just don't know if now's the right time for Wolcen. I just don't think there's enough players to really support a multiplayer-focused endgame mode. I just don't think it's going to work for Wolcen. Another thing they added in Content Patch 2 was shrines. This is the first iteration, and with that being said, it does need some work. They added in 3 different ones, maybe a 4th one, but there's 3 that I can remember off the top of my head. And there's one where you click on it and mobs spawn, and if you can kill all the mobs, you get a buff. But my issue was I never saw the buff actually on my action bar, and so I don't know if I actually ever even got the buff, or maybe it's a bug. They also added in cursed chests, which are cool. You click on a chest, kill enemies, when they're all dead, loot spawns. Definitely nice to see. They also added a shrine that if you click on it can add an additional map modifier, making the map harder but giving you more loot at the end. These are all really nice to see, but something just still feels off, and I just think it needs some more iterations, and I think it's just going to improve with time. Another highlight of this patch, and I have a video highlighting this, is trading. We're not going to go into super depth here, I'm just going to touch on it a little bit. Trading's really nice to see, to have more of a close-knit community type feeling. I definitely like to see trading in this sense. However, I have some concerns, and I think that just being able to trade anything and everything could lead to some issues down the road. That could lead to an inflated market where everything just costs an insane amount of gold to buy, so that new players just can never actually get into the economy. And also, it can make the hunt for items feel less important, and playing the market more important than actually hunting for gear. I really don't want to see that happen. Of course, you could just ignore trading altogether and just hunt for your own items, but you still know in the back of your head that you could just get on the Discord and trade for items instead of hunting for them yourself. They also added new items, 12 new unique items to be exact. And again, I'm really trying to prevent burnout, so I'm trying to save some of the new stuff for when the game does hit release, just so I can really spend a lot more time on release. So with that said, I didn't see many of the new unique items, but the more items they add to the game, the better in my opinion. The biggest update with items came in the UI. Now on weapons, you can see what type of damage it does, as well as local affixes. On armor and all the other items, you can see the local affixes. This really helps know where your stats are actually coming from, so you can really min-max more. It really is helpful, and it's a good improvement to see. But they also added in specific items that only drop in Wrath of Sarisel mode. This will change in the future, but for now they're just trying to get people to play the Wrath of Sarisel mode. And these items are pretty exclusive because they have an affix on them that allows you to cast a specific spell or skill. The way skills work right now is you can only use skills based on what items you're using. So with this item, let's say you have a whole melee build set up. You could find an item that lets you cast a mage spell on it. So that could add in a whole new variant to a build. I'm thinking like a warrior that has an item to be able to cast like Frost Nova and freeze enemies. Things like that. Overall, it's going to add more build variances, and it's really nice to see. And a minor note on new items, well, items in general, was they added on a weapon glow. The effects look really nice. I'm really impressed by those. Last but not least, I want to talk about the new skills. Again, I didn't try all these. I'm trying to save some for the release of the game. I know I keep saying it, but I really want to just reinforce that fact. But they added in Wrath of Baffet, Auto Turret, which spawns a turret, and it seems really cool. I didn't try this skill out. I just didn't come across it, but it's one that I'm definitely going to experiment when the game comes out. They also added in Gunslinger Brand, which is a ability where you mark enemies and then in quick succession you shoot them all. It seems like a really cool ranged ability. They also added the skill Warpath, and I did get the chance to test out this skill a little bit, and overall pretty much it's a charge skill. You charge in, and overall the skill does feel very clunky. It really needs worked on. It has very low damage. The stun barely works. Overall the skill needs a buff in my opinion. One of the runes that I really want to point out is at the end of your charge you shoot out a frontal cone shockwave AoE. I think instead of just a frontal cone, it should just be a 360 around you, just to kind of help reduce the clunky feeling of the skill. Another skill they added was Blade Storm. Think of this as Whirlwind, your spin to win ability, and it's definitely a cool spell. If you know me, you know I like the spin to win builds. And the biggest downfall on this skill, of course, is it does less damage than Bleeding Edge, and that's just a fact that we have to deal with. I really wish that they would either nerf Bleeding Edge or buff up some other skills to be on par, because as it feels right now, Bleeding Edge is still the way to go for the highest amount of damage. And also, the ailment builds got some buffs and some changes in this patch. I didn't really experiment with any of the ailments builds. I'm trying to save it all. So I'm sure there's tons more builds out there, and on release, we'll make sure to delve deep into those builds and really find some interesting builds and character setups. But that's going to be pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really want to know what everyone thinks about the multiplayer topic that we talked about with the Wrath of Sarisel mode. Do you guys think it's the right direction or not? I'm really curious what everyone else thinks about this. Again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Cause I feel like letting go. Can't express some energy. My battery's pretty low. Do you see with clarity? Gotta tell you I know. What a possibility. Come and listen close.